Hello and welcome to the Monthly Millionaire Mentor. I am here today with Wade Graham. He's a father first, that's very important, real estate investor and entrepreneur. And we're going to go through real estate investing, raising capital, and we're going to take this in an organic way. So, Wade, how are you doing today and how did you get to this point that you're at today?
Today I'm doing great. Just finished 5 days of daddy duty, and my son went off with his mom this morning, and so I'm kind of back into the work-life balance stuff. Having a great day. The sun's shining. Snowed a lot this week, and hopefully I can hit the slopes here next week early. So looking forward to it.
Well, one of the things that you talk about a lot is lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
You do a lot of work up front so that you can have that kind of lifestyle. Can you give us a bit of background on what it is that you do?
Well, kind of the backstory, I guess, is I bought a fair bit of real estate back in the kind of 2006, 2007. Took a little break when things were kind of coming down, but then bought again pretty heavy in 2009, 2010, and was able to kind of build a reasonable portfolio that supported my life. And I think that was the key piece for me, is that I watched a lot of people. A lot of people ask me, how many doors do you own, or how many properties do you own, or how much do you own? And that's the wrong question to ask, in my opinion. I watched a lot of guys buy hundreds of properties and wish they'd never bought a single one because they picked a model that didn't work for them and didn't serve them and didn't add to their lifestyle. And conversely, I've watched people buy 1, 2, 3 properties that add significantly to their lifestyle. They did it in a way that was strategic for them. And to me, that's the way I always wanted to build my portfolio. So I built it up based on cash flow. I buy mostly rental units, mostly in Calgary. I have a couple up in Edmonton still. I have a couple out here in Canmore. But, all of my business decisions are based around lifestyle. What is my time worth? What would I rather be doing? What do I enjoy doing? What am I good at? And when I focus on those things, that's when I'm allowed to have, 5 days of daddy duty at the ski hill and gymnastics and going to the pool and, not worrying about how the bills are going to get paid this month, so to speak. I feel really grateful, honored, and privileged to be in a position like this. Not many people can, or I shouldn't say that. Everybody can. Not a lot of people choose to put themselves in a position like this.
I want to know, did you start out with the intent that I'm going to do this to turn it into a lifestyle, or were you in a place of pain where you just had to get out? How was the real estate beginning for you?
I'm one of those typical accidental landlords. I was living in Calgary. My job, my contract had just ended right after 9/11, and I was in an industry that was severely affected by that. I ended up not working for about 9 months, went to Europe for a while, traveled around. While I was in Europe, I got a job out in Banff, which is ironically where I was conceived. And I had this place in Calgary that I was living in, and I had to rent it out. And I was making a little bit of money. I was making a ton of mistakes, but I knew I was kind of onto something, that this was something that would work well for me if I figured it out, if I learned about how to do this properly. Time went on, I kind of started buying some purposeful investments, and I got to a stage in my job where I had enough. I came from the computer IT industry, and I used to love it. I used to love doing what I did. But I remember sitting in a boardroom one day, just as I was about to go on vacation, and the VPs are asking me about when this is going to get done, when that's going to get done, where this is moving, where that's moving, and I honestly just looked up at them and said, "I'm going on vacation, and I'm not coming back." I was privileged to be put in a position like that, and every day I'm grateful for the opportunities that I have around me and the way I'm able to take advantage of some of those opportunities, the ones I choose to.
So What advice would you give to people out there that are in that position that you were in those few years back?
It's hard work. You've got to have some vision about what it is you want. You have to know exactly why you want to be doing it. If your why isn't strong enough, you'll find 1,000 excuses to stay in the same rat race, doing the same thing that you're currently doing. Not many people have that ability to really make significant change in their lives. You're going to have to work hard. You're going to have to get educated. You're going to have to surround yourself with people that know what the heck they're talking about. If there's any industry that's prolific, absolutely prolific with people who like to talk about real estate but not do real estate, this is that industry. There are a lot of talkers. There are very few people that know how to make it really happen.
So you said it's very important to get educated. So how did you figure it out? Well, let's start with, what is the strategy that you use?
Sure. My strategy is really simple. I buy houses in Northwest Calgary around a $350,000 mark with investors. I suite those properties and I rent them out long term. My average rent is around $2,600 a month per property. I'm a long-term buy and hold guy. That's my strategy. Yeah, I've done rent owns. I bought a flip this morning. I've assigned contracts. Things like that. My primary business is long-term buy and hold.
Yeah. So you were saying your rents are about $2,600. What do you look for in terms of cash flow?
If I can't make $400 a month on a property from, essentially day one, I don't buy a property.
So it's a bad deal if it doesn't cash flow more than $400.
Totally. Now, I bought some properties early on in my game that didn't cash flow like that, and they're just alligators. They just suck the life out of you. Get rid of them. Anybody who tries to sell you a break-even property is run. Just run. Break-even properties to me are not worth it. You're banking entirely on equity appreciation and mortgage pay down, and you're not buying back your life in any sort of meaningful way, in my opinion.
And if one thing goes wrong, it could take you down with it.
Yeah, this is a big checks business. You're gonna write checks for roofs, for floods, for flooring, for damaged whatever, for midnight moves. That stuff is going to come along.
How did you get into this strategy? How did you learn about it?
I originally read, I'm one of the few people that hasn't read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I think everybody but me has read that book. I understand Robert's concepts. But I read Robert Allen originally, I think called Creating Cash Flow, maybe? Something along those lines, where he talks about buying real estate and buying gold, essentially. From there, I went and read one of Don Campbell's books, one of his original ones, Real Estate Investing in Canada. Picked up a few more books, your typical investment style books, The Lazy Investor, The Wealthy Barber, those sorts of things.
Did you actually use the strategies in the book?
Yes.
And they worked?
They have worked for me.
Okay, so you're saying that you can actually read a book, learn something, apply it, and have it work?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Did I go above and beyond that? Yes, I did. I became a member of the Real Estate Investment Network. I got coaching from high level people whom I respected, who were doing some of the stuff that I wanted to do. I went above and beyond that. But do I think that you can just read the book and get involved? Yeah, for the most part, I do believe that.
Yeah, great. Because I think a lot of people get caught up with, I have this book, but the book isn't enough. And they just get caught in this cycle of, I need to learn more, I need to learn more, I need to learn more, and never getting anything done.
Totally. I think I posted a little while back, if you think you need another seminar, or you need another book, or you need another whatever, what you're really doing is making excuses, and you've got some sort of fear behind whatever it is you're doing that you need to deal with, and you need to move forward. One of my good friends, Julie Broad, the bottom of her email always says, the missing piece is always action. And I completely agree. You got to get out there doing stuff. You can't be reading about it. You can't be learning about it all the time. This is kind of there's a stage and a section for that. And I'll tell you that I'm still learning today, but I'm also out there writing contracts, putting deals together, making phone calls.
All right, Wade, why don't we get into some strategy now? Now, you said you had read some books, you'd gone above that level of education, you were making mistakes on your own. So what do you look for when you're looking for a deal?
Essentially, what I'm looking for is a deal I can make money. When I'm talking buy and hold, I'm looking for a property I can make $400 a month on minimum on that property. After all expenses, property management, repairs and maintenance, utilities, blah, 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 blah. All that cash flow type stuff, which I'm sure your listeners are more than educated on. But, I'm looking for a property that fits my niche. I'm looking for 3 bedrooms up, 2 bedrooms down, double detached garage, back to the alley. Is probably going to take a family with a couple young kids upstairs and probably some students or a young couple downstairs. The garage is probably going to get rented out by a mechanic or somebody that needs some stuff. The small business owner here in town that just needs a little extra space. If I can find that property, I'm in my buy and hold world. I'm not looking for stuff that I can that I have to go in and do a ton of renos to. I live out here in Canmore. Again, time is very important to me. So the idea of doing large rental projects in the city, for me, wasn't worth it. I do them. I have done them. But as a business, as a regular way to make money, it wasn't the strategy that I wanted to employ. I wanted a property that was pretty much turnkey right from the beginning. I understand that buying properties below value and rough that are in rough shape and doing the renos and blah blah blah. I get that. I understand that. For me, and back to lifestyle, it didn't fit what I wanted to do from a lifestyle perspective. So that's the method I chose to take along the way for the majority of my business.
All right. So you mentioned renting the garage to a mechanic or to someone who needed storage, having students in the basement, a family and kids upstairs. Do you separate the houses? Are you looking for single family or these duplexes?
Mine are single families with suited basements. That's the structure. Okay. Not all of ours are legal, so to speak, from a zoning perspective. We have, however, gone in to do all the health and safety code stuff to make those, a great place for somebody to live. And there are a lot of landlords that don't go to that. They just, slap on a door, put a kitchen downstairs. They've got windows that are about that big, no fire alarms, no anything. And, that's undue risk in my opinion. It's just foolhardy and selfish. How
do you find the deals?
I'll talk a little bit about this deal I put together this morning.
This one's a flip, right?
This one is a flip, but how I find deals now versus how I found deals in the beginning are two very different beasts. In the beginning days, I think I went through about 16 realtors before I found a realtor that could talk the language that I needed to talk, that understood the business that I wanted to get into, that wasn't just an overpriced salesman. and that's a lot of realtors. They're just there to make a commission. And I understand that and I respect that. But for me, I need a realtor that understood what I was doing and had been doing it. So it took me quite a while to find that. And once I found that, deals started to kind of flow across my desk. And at first, I went and looked at, I was probably looking at 40 or 50 houses for every one that I bought. Now I'm probably down to looking at 4 or 5 houses for every one I buy. And just the process and as to how that transpires is interesting to me.
So what happened in that process? They just know your criteria better, you have better deal sources?
Yeah, all of the above. The realtors that I'm still working with today, know exactly what I buy. You know, when they call up and say, "Wait, it's time to buy a house," I'm probably buying a house that day. And I know more of what I want, right? You know, in the early days, I had some condos and I had some townhouses and I had some places in, you know, Edmonton and whatnot. And I wasn't really specific on what it is I was buying. I didn't really know, you know, that kind of thing that it kind of evolves over time. And people say, you know, what sort of investment house or property should I buy? And I'll never tell them an answer, right? Because what I buy, it may not fit your criteria and what you need to get involved with. And probably that's going to evolve over time as you learn more about what it is you want out of this business. So yeah, you know, me getting more specific as to what I want, where I wanted it, getting and building relationships in this business. You know, I was reminded this morning how much of a relationship business this real estate world is. You know, that deal came across my desk. I have yet to see the property. I made 3 phone calls and I bought it. You know, I do not recommend that. I do not endorse that sort of behavior until you have done the sort of things that need to happen beforehand. You know, you need to get in the trenches. That's completely relationships. I know the person selling it to me. The financing was done over the phone with pretty much a handshake. And, you know, got on the 3rd phone call just to make sure the investor was still willing to put their money there. You know, that took me less than an hour. Again, yet to see this property.
Yeah, so you know what you're looking for, but in the beginning you didn't. So
Yeah.
Is that going to be the course for people who are just getting started in this?
You have to write offers. You have to get out there. You have to get into the market. You have to negotiate deals, and you have to get dirty for the first little while. Right? You have to look at 40 or 50 properties. And not turn them down out of fear, but turn them down because you're just getting educated, right? It's an education process. It's the price of tuition in this business, time.
And I think writing the first offer is really scary.
You know, I still get clammy hands when I'm writing offers. That kind of never goes away for me. Yeah, you know, those first ones are terrifying, right? You know, you're probably going to write a fairly significant check. You're getting into a world that you probably don't fully understand. There's going to be lots of doubts. There's lots of questions, lots of things you don't know yet, and those first few are terrifying. You know, I think Don Campbell says this all the time, is those first 3 are the hardest, and I completely agree, you know. After time, it becomes a little bit rudimentary. I still get those clammy hands, but, you know, the questions about how am I going to finance this? Who's going to rent it? You know, am I overpaying? You know, all those sorts of things. You know, what do I not know about maintenance, or, you know, who's the home inspector I should be using? You know, all those questions. They're good questions, and you just don't know in the beginning, but you got to put one foot in front of the other and move forward with anything. You know, people ask how I got here. It is one foot in front of the other for a long, long, long time.
The monotony of success.
That's a great term. I like that. You know, I was talking this morning about, you know, at some point in time, it becomes really kind of rudimentary and boring. It really is.
Well, even for this, I interview all of these amazing people, but it becomes boring well, the interviews aren't the boring part, but setting them up, getting the contacts, creating the schedules, all of the stuff around it is just mundane.
It looks easy, you know, people, it looks easy from the outside. I always thought this was going to be easy, and, you know, all that stuff. And people don't see the behind the scenes and what goes on, how it really works, the things you've got to do to get there. And, you know, we always take it for granted. You know, when people are doing things really well, they make it look easy. It's because they put a ton of time in. Hey, if I swear during this, it's my bad. I'm kind of un-G-rated sometimes.
That will happen. That's being real. So, you mentioned in the first part of this episode that you need to develop a strong why, because if you don't, you're going to find a bunch of excuses and reasons not to follow through. And you just said you have to get through the first 3 deals, because those are the hardest.
totally.
So, what was your why, and how did you develop that? How did you know that was it?
Well, I lived in Banff at the time. I live in Canmore now, just down the street. I'm kind of lazy, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not a guy who likes to work hard. I like to work smart. I'm not a guy who likes to work hard. I love spending my time in the mountains. On the other side of this camera, I'm looking out at Highling, Mount Rundle, Grassy, and whatnot. What's that, sorry?
I'll come visit you right away because I'm going to be out there soon.
Sounds good. Yeah, are you out here?
No, I'm in Winnipeg.
Are you coming out this way then?
I will be in April.
Well, come and join us for sure. For sure. But, I'd rather be skiing. I'd rather be climbing. I'd rather be hiking. I'd rather be out with my son. We went to the ski hill this week. When he was just born, I was able to take that first year off and just be a dad. I know that I'm privileged. I know that I've made some really good decisions along the way, and has enabled me to kind of be in that position. But I work 24 hours a week. I don't want to work anymore. I'm perfectly good with that.
But in the beginning, what was your why?
My why is I wanted to be in the mountains. My why is I wanted to go skiing, right? I wanted to be able to facilitate my ability to go climbing on the days that were good to go climbing and not have that dictated by a 9-to-5 schedule Monday to Friday. I think trading dollars for hours and being in the rat race, so to speak, it wasn't for me. I shouldn't say I never wanted to be there, but I got to a point where I wanted more control over my life and what I was doing and the things I really wanted to take on. I've got more options and opportunities these days than I ever did before. And again, I use that term grateful a lot, and I am truly, truly grateful for those opportunities.
Yeah, what did it feel like to not be able to go into the mountains and have that 9-to-5 schedule?
For me, the mountains were always the mountains were my church. They were the place that I would go to meditate. They were the place that I would go to kind of reconnect with who I was. And, they were the way I expressed my life, when I was skiing a line or when I was climbing a mountain or, whatever I was doing that day. To not be able to do that for me, I was injured over December. I pinched a nerve in my lower back, and I spent a good part of a month not being able to do anything. And for me, I was agonizing. Again, first world problems, but it was agonizing to not be out there, not be able to pick my son up, not be able to go skiing with my friends or climb some of the new lines that were coming in at that point in time. And health is the number one thing in your world, for sure, without a doubt. And I remember laying in bed with this back injury and just the frustration and the angst that kind of would build up in me over time. I don't do well sitting around doing nothing. Like it's not me. I've kind of restructured some of the things that I'm going to do these days. I go to a lot of CrossFit, a lot of yoga. Those things are super important to me, and those are more important than making a few extra bucks on the side for whatever.
Would you say that not being able to go to the mountains to your church and place to meditate, would you say that was like spirit crushing or soul crushing?
Yeah. I'm not a city guy. I can't live in the city. It's not for me. I know where I'm supposed to be. For me to not be able to participate in that lifestyle is to not be who I am.
So by doing this, you're being who you are.
Yeah, I like the lifestyle. I like the people, the community, and the expression of a mountain life, right? Okay. And I see so many people in the city. I was there this weekend for a conference watching Brett Wilson speak, and I remember driving through downtown and people with their heads down, just kind of that forward momentum, briefcase in hand, with no real purpose. It was just there to just make some money. And, that makes me truly and entirely sad to watch that sort of stuff go on.
Feels kind of hollow.
It's hollow. It's empty. There's a lot of talk of zombies these days, The Walking Dead and whatnot. And when I go to the corporate commercial world, for the most part, I see zombies. I see people without purpose. I see people without passion, without drive. They might as well just be a freaking zombie to me. I don't get that. I don't understand it. Again, we live in the first world here. We have first world problems. And, to people to piss away their life doing stuff they don't love, they don't enjoy, that doesn't really fire them up every day, that makes me angry. It makes me a little pent up to even talk about those things. When I see my students doing things kind of just for the sake of making $1, I slap some faces and I get really upset with them over just chasing dollars for no reason whatsoever. Marriages explode, kids are only little so long. You're only healthy, you've only got a certain amount of time in this little world of ours. You better be making the most of it, in my opinion. And to watch people piss it away just is sad to me. You go to India, you go to Africa, you go to Central America, you go to those places and you get perspective on what life is really all about and how precious it is. And as I was a couple weeks ago, climbing with a friend of mine, and he fell and he almost killed himself. And those moments in time really bring perspective as to what's important in your life, what it is that really drives you. There's challenges and problems, and then there's inconveniences, and most of us deal with inconveniences. The schedules, where money's flowing, blah blah blah. Those are inconveniences. Real challenges are things that most people don't understand. Back to lifestyle. One of the things I love about mountain towns, and this is going to sound kind of morbid, but I love that death is in the air a lot around here. I've lost some great friends, people are really close to me, and that hurts. But I also love walking downtown and seeing people that are living their life to the fullest expression of whatever that is. Some of them are wealthy and rich, and some of them are not. But all of them have that purpose and that drive and that ambition for life. And those are the people that I love hanging around, quite frankly.
I would agree with that. I grew up in a small town where, you knew when someone died, it wasn't just a faceless person, it was someone that you knew quite intimately.
Yeah.
And now when I move, when I'm in the city, there's much less of a connection between anyone. And we live in a connection world.
Within a city, you can't get that, but I don't feel it when I'm there, and
it doesn't feel as strong for me.
Yeah, I think in general that people are there just to kind of especially in Alberta, right? We're here to make some money. Let's not kid ourselves. There's lots of it here. People come from various parts of the country, make their dollars, and they leave. And good on them, I guess. There's more to life than that. There's more to life than that sort of drive and ambition, I guess.
Let's talk about what you do with your time now. Let's talk about the purpose and the passion projects and the things you're going after. But then I want to get into, how would I send you a deal? Let's go through this. What criteria would I have to meet in order for us to work together? So let's start with your passion projects.
My passion projects these days are coaching. I've been doing a lot of one-on-one and group mastermind mentoring. I've got one coming up this weekend. I absolutely love having the conversations with that group of people. Entrepreneurs are generally lone wolves. They haven't got a lot of people to express themselves to, or brainstorm with, and you're afraid that if you express your challenges and concerns to the competition, that people are going to take advantage of you, and that may be true. Also, friends and family often aren't great people to talk about the things that need to get talked about. They've got agendas, they've got history, they've got backgrounds, and the group I put together, I'm just there to tell it how it is. Give them some real perspective, some real analysis. Let the group kind of brainstorm and organically figure out how to navigate the things we're trying to navigate. The thing that's a lot of fun for me is within, we give each person an hour to talk about whatever it is they need to talk about. But you inevitably learn more from the other people's sessions than you learn from your own session. You learn about, what happened in Shaun's world over here, and how can I implement, avoid, or do whatever I need to do with, his experience and take that into my own world. And that's a lot of fun for me. I get a lot of those conversations. I expose them to some things that they probably haven't been exposed to before. I bring in, guest speakers, people that I've worked with a lot in the past, whom I respect, whom have a lot to offer to the world, and just kind of have an open dialogue conversation. And that's the number one thing I've got going on these days. Number two is TEDx. We've signed up. We bought the license, or not bought. We acquired the license for TEDx here in Canmore, and we kind of kept it behind the scenes for a little while. And we kind of kept the lid on it, and we released the fact that we're going to do it about a month ago now. And within this little town of mine, it's all the buzz. People are really excited about bringing TED to town. Maybe some of your viewers know that TED moved up to Vancouver and Whistler here recently, and there are an absolute wealth of knowledge in this town, different perspectives on how people see the world here in Canmore and Banff and Exshaw. So putting that project together, we're basically putting 24 speakers in a room for an entire day. We're having an evening gala. The speakers will be amongst the crowd, which is a TED requirement, which I think is brilliant, because so often speakers, I've spoken on a lot of stages over the years, and the speakers have this special section off to the side, and nobody's allowed to talk to them, and they're treated kind of like royalty. And I'm not one for pedestals. I don't like being put on a pedestal. I don't like putting people on pedestals. I think we all shit the same, so to speak. But anyways, so TED, bringing that to town, bringing in some just really interesting, articulate people who see the world differently, and I really respect those people. I really admire those people, and I'm really excited to be bringing that to Canmore.
Great, so, yeah. So
those are some of the projects that I'm able to take part in because of what I did, over the past 5 years.
Yeah, I like that, and I can see that when you're talking about them, you really light up.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Maybe it's because you're the entrepreneur and you want that connection. You need that connection.
Totally.
Yeah. So, let's talk a little bit about how would I send you a deal, hypothetically, or we could do it as a real thing, but and then how do you find investors and get investments on your deals?
I'll talk a little bit about kind of, if you're going to send me a deal, honestly, I don't work that way. I go out and find my own deals and bring them out to my investors. If you've got a property that kind of meets my criteria, I'll certainly look at it. Maybe I'll pay you an assignment fee for that property. I haven't done that a whole heck of a lot. You know, the deal flow I've got is already pretty substantial. You know, it's not a model that I went after. I know lots of people who bird dog. I was never a bird dogger. So if you've got deals you want me to look at from a just an analysis point of view, I'm happy to chat with people. I give people a free half hour of my time just to chat about whatever they need. And if they've got a deal on the table they need a kind of second set of eyes on, I'm happy to chat about that for sure.
That's good. Is that something that you'll offer to the listeners of this as well?
Yeah, if you guys need a free half hour, go to wadegraham.ca and sign up on there, and there's a little scheduled calendar thing that you can pick my brain for a half hour.
Great. Now, what I really meant was when your realtors or when your deal sources are sending you deals, what is it that you went through what you're looking for, but what kind of numbers are you looking for in terms of, you said cash flow already, you know what your rents are, you know your market, but...
Like I mentioned earlier, I'm looking for a property kind of around the $350,000 range, give or take $50,000. I'm looking for something that I can rent out for around $2,500. I'm not looking for anything that requires more than about $10,000 worth of upfront renovations. Northwest Calgary, around C train stations is outstanding. Generally older neighborhoods, 1980s, early 90s. I don't like doing the 1950s stuff. Generally that has a little bit too much stuff that sneaks up on you later in life. I'm looking for motivated sellers. That's a key aspect over the years for me, and a recurring one. I'll throw out a lot of offers and I'll know right away whether or not somebody's motivated to really sell their house. In a down market, there's lots of people like that. In a more healthy market like we've got right now, there's less people like that. They're still out there. But I'm looking to buy a property at a good dollar that I can make a good yield on. If you're bringing me those sorts of deals, I'll buy it.
Yeah. And how do you find investors, and how do you bring your deals to investors?
When I first started out, it wasn't very sexy. It wasn't very elegant. I was basically telling people about what I was doing. How was your day today? Ah, great. I was out looking at a rental property in Calgary. It looks like it's going to be a great little project we can make some money on. And they would either say, "Shut up, you capitalist pig! I don't want to talk to you," or tell me some more about that. What does that look like? And I basically just had a whole bunch of conversations, right? I was willing to have the conversation with everybody. I was willing to share with them, what I was doing. And I find a lot of investors in the early days are shy to talk about real estate for whatever reason. There's some stigmas, some whatever that kind of holds them back from talking about what they're doing or what they want to be doing. So I was willing to have that conversation with everybody. And originally I put together, I wasn't willing to do deals with friends and family right off the bat. I kind of have three categories of how I treat money. My money I treat recklessly. Investors' money I take a great deal of pride and respect in. And family and friends' money for me was a whole separate category, and there's a whole another level of responsibility there that I'm sure some of your listeners understand and know about. So I wasn't willing to go with the friends and family. I was willing to go with acquaintances and accredited investors, my kind of circle of influence, my circle of people, but I wasn't willing to deal with close friends and family right off the bat, just in case things went sideways. It wasn't worth it for me to compromise those relationships in the early days of my investments. We all think we know what we're doing. We all have good intentions, and sometimes things don't work out the way you think they're going to work out. And that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Until I got my feet on the ground, I didn't want to deal with friends and family money. Kind of as that progressed along, I kind of became more sophisticated in my approach. I built a website, I put up a Facebook fan page, I put up a Twitter account, and social media and email marketing worked really well for me over the years. I built a blog, and I would write about what it was I was doing, the challenges I was having.
Would you say that even real estate investors need to have a blog?
Yeah, I think you guys did a blog session just a little while back, didn't you not?
I did a blog interview for this past week's episode with Neil Patel about why every business needs a blog.
Yeah, I thought I saw it. Definitely. But one of the ways I was able to position myself was by writing about my experiences on a regular basis. And if anybody needs a blog, it's real estate investors, certainly. I know several people who made fantastic careers simply on the fact they had a blog. Julie Broad has done an amazing job over the years, writing in her blog, writing about her successes and failures and trials and tribulations of real estate. And she's always been really real about what she's experiencing. Sometimes it's not always that pretty, but that's real estate. The way I was able to build a so-called brand was writing about what I knew and understood and my knowledge, and putting that out there for the world to absorb. I was able to put a substantial list together over not too long a period of time. I attracted a good following, and when deals came across my desk that I didn't have investors for, I was able to market back out to that list and say, I've got a deal, sitting on my desk. I haven't got an investor for it right now. If you're interested, get on the phone. And, I raised millions of dollars that way.
Yeah. Now, I have a question about this because I have a friend who also raises money for deals. He has, I think, 16 investors with hundreds of thousands of dollars of capital to back him.
Awesome.
But for you, is there like a small group of people that fund most of your deals?
For the most part, yeah. When somebody has invested with me, they're immediately kind of top of the list as to who I'm going to offer the next deal to. They've worked with me now. They're kind of in the know. Things are a little bit easier. Acquiring new customers, new investors, is a lot of work and hard, right? So when you've got a kind of a core group of people, when you've built that core group, you keep using them for however long you can keep using them for, as long as you're making them money. Good on you. Watching Brett Wilson talk the other day, one of my takeaways from that talk was, if you don't, when Brett offers you a deal and you don't do that deal, you go to the bottom of the list. So, it kind of filters and percolates. The guys who are willing to do the deals are at the top, and they're getting first crack. That's the way I like to, when you get that money pool doing its thing, that's the way I like to operate. Whereas, if you're always just sending deals to the entire list, one, you're going to burn them out, and two, they don't care because you didn't really build a relationship with them. So.
Good. I like that. Now, we're coming to the end here. Now, let's talk about your website and your blog and where people can go to find out more about you. And then any closing words that you have for people.
Sure. Well, I've got two websites these days, essentially. Higher Ground Real Estate Investments, hgrei.com. One of the worst names in the world, but that's my investment real estate business. It was recently redone because we had our site hacked and downed, and you'll get into the backups and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, that's a whole nother world. And then wadegraham.ca is my business coaching and kind of my more personal journey about what I've got going on these days and what that looks like. Okay.
And what closing words would you have to anyone who's watching this call?
It's worth it. Being an entrepreneur is worth it. There are days that it's not. That you are going to go through a bunch of trials and tribulations. There will come up times where you want to quit. where it's easy to go back to the 9 to 5. But if you have a vision and you have a desire for something greater in your life, then I can't find any better way to do that than, strong entrepreneurial spirit. Foster that, nurture that, protect that, and opportunities will come across your door that you've never ever thought would happen. It makes me sad to watch some of those entrepreneurs that work 80 hours a week for 60 years. There was a generation that thought just working hard and providing a roof over their heads was all important. And to me, building relationships, having a great connection with myself and with my son is worth any sort of dollars that I would have ever made working that 60 or 80 hours a week. Read your books, get out there, do. If you need a coach or a mentor, there's hundreds and thousands of them out there. Pick somebody that works really well for you, and do it, man. Just get out there and do it. And those who want it bad enough will make it happen.
Thank you, Wade. Thanks for being on the show today. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Shaun, I know you've been wanting me on here for a while, and I really appreciate your tenacity and willingness to get my message and share that with your listeners. I really appreciate the opportunity, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
All right, I hope you enjoyed this video, and be sure to like, share, and comment below. Subscribe to this channel for more interviews, and if you want to go further and be live on the interviews, you can go to mmt.tv/live to find out how. Like on Facebook, follow on Twitter to ask your questions, and be sure to get on the mailing list. Go to mmt.tv to get access to all the things that are not contained in these interviews. All the links are mentioned below, and until next time, break the rules, change the game, and be a rock star.